Thank you very much for meeting me here. It's nice to see you again. My name is Lauren Heistad, author to the book Homecoming. Today we are on chapter 34, Speaking My Truth. Early years. The first year of owning and operating my SOULworks Sacred Healing Center was certainly a divine, synchronistic dance of wonderment. Truth be told, there were also a lot of emotional ups and downs that went with the growing pains and transitions of opening my own business. I believe the same to be true for any large changes in our life. Clarity on how to proceed or how to expand your soulful adventure does not always come all at once. Definitely not. Definitely not. Or at the beginning of the process, for that matter. Rather, it comes as you learn and grow into the experiences, with a constant changes and fluctuations along the way. Thank God, right? Big changes are hard to work through. So it's very nice to know there's a process and divine plan in the background helping us get there, isn't it? Okay. Now, as my mountain of responsibilities expanded, so did the expectations of others begin to emerge. My facility housed many like-minded people who were all starting their own spiritual adventures working within the center. Needless to say, there was a whole lot of new beginnings going on for everyone, basically. Now, despite enjoying my work and surroundings immensely, over time I did begin to feel bombarded by those within the center relying on me to obtain their own individual success. Even though the parameters were clear regarding personal responsibility to their own business development, I started to notice how everyone was continuously looking to me for answers. And not that I didn't have a wealth of knowledge in business development, marketing, or communications. Technically, that had been my background for many years. Rather, I moved into the field of teaching to help empower people to understand their own potential. Not to have people continuously rely on me to do their inner and outer work for them. Truth. The more everyone looked to me for answers, the more I shut down. I just shut down until it got to the point I did not want to address the problems at all. In fact, my pressures eventually became too much to handle, and I simply became physically ill. Pneumonia, actually, for 6 months. Now, as a healer, it is always extra annoying, isn't it, to personally become sick? And that's not because I'm above illness, heavens no, but because I know full well what brings on physical issues. Unaddressed emotional turmoil. Always. In one way, shape, or form, suppressed emotions left unexpressed will eventually manifest in physical form to get your attention. They will. When you can find and release the underlying problem, the physical symptoms will always subside pretty much instantly. It's quite magical, actually. Okay, but I started with the more obvious cause to my ailment at the time by addressing my mounting pressures from the center. Unfortunately, I had also lost my voice at the time and could not verbalize my frustrations, even if I'd wanted to. So I began with a letter. The written word has always been my preference when dealing with sensitive issues anyway, as it brings more clarity and avoids misinterpretations or misunderstandings. Within the correspondence, I laid out my entire truth, frustrations and mounting pressure to those at the center. I openly talked about how awful it felt. It did. It felt awful to have so many relying on me to further their own development. I spoke of my willingness to lead by example, but that I was not in the position to save or develop their endeavors. I encouraged each person to see the potential within themselves to create change in their own world, instead of expecting me or anyone else to do the work for them. I also said I had always been clear about my teachings of self-empowerment, and if they would refer to my original documents, they would know this to be true. My guides pointed out the similarities on how I was feeling to the magnitude of responsibilities felt by Yeshua, Jesus. It seemed like a strange comparison, but I did understand the symbology. Quite frankly, in my own little world, the pressures seemed unbearably huge. Basically, my need for change in their perspective and expectations was far greater than any fear of their reactions to my honesty. Still working on that. Hence, I moved forward. Anyways. I sent them a letter and wrote it as sincerely as possible. Thankfully, my fears were unmerited, with the resultant general response being absolutely supporting. I find people always respond compassionately when you are speaking your truth and coming from your heart in the most respectful way possible. After sending my letter, my lungs began to see slight improvements. Yet I was still unable to shake the illness or fully release many years of suppressed emotions. Many years. I cried to my guides. I do that a lot, but I did. I cried to my guides for help one night while looking at my sad, pale reflection in the mirror. My guides responded very quickly and clearly with a loving message. They said, "Lauren, your soul contains lifetimes of anguish, pressures, and sadness. That's what they said that night. They also said it is safe to release these pent-up emotions and let them go. I sobbed aloud. I opened my mouth in an attempt to let go of all I held on to. And I watched as this black swarm of energy began to emerge from the depths of my soul and move right out of my mouth. Now, I quickly slammed my jaw shut and refused to go on. I remember thinking there was no earthly way, no way I could release such darkness into the world. Odd reality in response, I realize. But if you had seen the dark energy I saw and witnessed coming from my mouth, you would have done the same. You would have done the same. It reminded me of bug-like creatures with long tails, heads like people, that swarmed right out of me. And it was my understanding that it represented all those in the world who had ever caused me pain or anguish. And that included myself. Of course it did. We cause ourselves all kinds of pain and anguish. Truth. Now, refusing to go on, but with the guidance coming in, insisting that change was in order, my team began to take a different approach. Would it help if we changed the look of the energy you need to release? They compassionately asked that day. Of course it would. A dark swarm coming out of me didn't look too pretty. So knowing and seeing the energy would transmute into something lighter was very important to me. So I allowed my guides to intervene. And once again, I opened my mouth and let lifetimes of suppressed sorrow to the surface. This time, an army of flying scorpions with these beautiful golden crowns on their human-like heads emerged from the depths of my soul. The addition of the golden crowns added this lighter, even silly feel to the process. But I still refuse to let the energy out. Like, nice try, but no. I'll not proceed until you promise me it will not bring harm to anyone in this world, including all plants, trees, creatures, and people, I insisted. Upon agreeing to my terms, I opened my mouth and watched as I shifted centuries and centuries of sorrow and mounting expectations. The pressure left my inner place, a suppressed holding, and released it to the light. My guides told me this release was symbolic of the divine feminine energy, and specifically Mary Magdalene, that had been held down and written out for centuries. During this process, I heard scriptures being recited again. And once again, unfamiliar with any biblical accounts, I looked up and read the following reference that I had heard as Revelations 9:4. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any green plant or any tree. Followed by Revelations 9:7. In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle, and their heads looked like crowns of gold, and their faces were like human faces. Their hair like women's hair, and their teeth like the lion's teeth. I'll be right back. Ever wonder what I do when I pause? I needed a pep talk to keep going. Talk about releasing suppressed emotions, hey? Speaking my truth has been a heck of a long process. Here we go. Now, understandably, I was incredibly scared and concerned. What did any of this have to do with me? Why was I reenacting such strange passages written in the Bible well before my time. And seriously, what the heck was wrong with me? During this entire process, I watched my face more from the mirror. It went from my own face to Mary Magdalene, to that of a witch, to that of a wise old sage, and then rotated through many other familiar yet unknown female reflections echoed throughout time. Eventually, the image on the mirror settled on my own reflection once again, but this time in a bridal veil. This internal transformation unearthed many obscure thoughts and self-inflicted judgments, including the honest realization that perhaps I had officially lost my mind. Maybe I did. However, despite my mounting fears of not understanding the scope of what was happening or what I was truly releasing, my lungs were notably lighter, though not healed completely. Now, still having limited breathing capacity, I looked down and realized I had something energetically sitting on my chest. My guides used the term anvil to describe the object I so clearly saw. And as I went to throw it off, I came to realize it was chained to me. Crying, sobbing, I asked for more help and clarification. I was told it is being used to keep your soul in this vibration. That was the guidance I heard. It will be fully released when the entire earth is ready to move up in awareness. After the strange encounter subsided and after coming to peace with this odd reality, I started to research the occurrence. Similar to my experience, I found legends of the divine feminine energy being chained to the earth with an anvil to weigh her down. Saint Bridget is an example in Ireland known as the bride, and is also sometimes depicted as being held down by an anvil. Good God, what was happening to me? Were the only words I could muster. Now, as weeks changed into months, my pneumonia continued, and knowing my illness represented still unresolved issues with my past, I went to see a naturopathic intuitive. I complained bitterly to this knowledgeable man about how the whole left side of my lungs ached and would not heal no matter what I tried. The examination revealed the actual pain ran much lower below my lungs and reached as high as my heart. Now, right away, the holistic practitioner referenced the pain to be a trauma of the past. He went on to say I had an ongoing infection that was caused by an energetic spear that ran from my spleen to my lungs and up to the tip of my heart. Now, as much as I wanted to argue that reality, my soul could not deny the connection as I sat there and sobbed. With his bold observation, I could see Yeshua hanging on the cross, with a spear extending upward toward his heart. Now, my logic argued it was wrong. Of course I did. I was just connecting to the emotions of the collective conscious and globally recognized story. Besides, the logistics were not even accurate. I had seen many images of Yeshua hanging on the cross before, most of which depicted the spear on the right side, near as I could remember, near as I could remember. However, despite my own conclusions, it did not take long to find online references that validated the experience and connection to the left side of my body. It was in John 19:34. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. Blood and water. For this description to be possible, there's actually many ways for this description to be possible, but what I discovered at the time was that scholars believe the spear was thrust upward on the left-hand side of his spleen, to his lungs, and to the tip of his heart. Now, my online exploration was followed by so many more sobs. Why were these biblical references continuing to happen? What was the message I was missing in all this blatant symbology? Now, I remember the confusion as I experienced healing after healing by releasing old patterns and experiences, as well as not understanding why this was coming up and why I still could not completely be healed. Months passed with no huge improvements. During this time, my guide started to point out I had once believed and known my connections to biblical times, and in particular to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. That was true. I could not deny what my guides had brought to my awareness. I had known and understood my connection to both these biblical personalities for many years. In fact, I had long since accepted my link to Mary Magdalene well before the more recent accounts of her life resurfaced. Truth. I had also been very clear on my connection to Yeshua until more recently. I was actually shocked by the realization I had let go of my connection to Yeshua, becoming less and less confident in my own inner knowing. Seeing the link between this life and my exasperated lungs was humbling. Perhaps it was easier to relate to a sorrowful bride depicted as a whore, more so than the martyred Messiah depicted as a savior, I reasoned. To heal within, I vowed to find the strength to once again accept that part of my life. Looking back, it took well over another year to fully regain my strength. But this particular day of soulful healing, it did mark the moment I started to speak my truth, at least to myself. My guides called me Sophia that day. In actuality, that was another low point in our conversation. Of course it was. First of all, they were asking me to remember my connection to Mary Magdalene. Next, they wanted me to understand my ties to Yeshua. Now they're claiming my name was not just Lauren, but in fact Sophia. What kind of an egotistical fool did they take me for? And what did the name reference even mean? What did it mean? My answer came in a few months' time after reading a book of ancient texts. As it turns out, the Gnostics believe Sophia to represent the combined energy of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. It is Sophia who will return during the second coming to speak her truth. Evolving your soul works. There are currently many people in our world connecting to both the Yeshua and the Mary Magdalene energies. A few online searches will definitely prove this point to be true. Many people are experiencing profound connections to these specific avatars and believe that they represent the prophesied ones in the flesh. I believe this is because each and every one of us holds aspects of the divine masculine and feminine within ourselves, symbolically represented by these two figures. Each and every one of us can tap into the collective emotions of their past experiences. These two biblical characters are relevant and symbolic of many soulful encounters we have all had in the past, as well as future realities we strive to achieve. In biblical accounts, the Yeshua energy was put high on a pedestal as a savior. Mary Magdalene energy cast away as a sinner. No one should ever be placed above or below anyone, biblical accounts or otherwise. It is time to realize we were all created equal. We all hold the capacity to exude that light within us, and we all deserve to be treated as the divine beings that we are. Yes, we do. There are many reasons we each mirror the experiences this story has to offer. The suppressed feminine energy, the sacrificed male energy, the search for balance in one's life, and the soulful journey to enlightenment. More importantly, there are many reasons similar stories have circled and cycled throughout time, not only in biblical accounts, but many other ancient civilizations before that. Under the guise of many different names, the divine feminine and masculine aspect have remained within our hearts and souls by means of myth, legend, documented prophecies, astrological signs, and personal experiences. For eons, these two archetypes have stayed alive within our very beings. Truth. I'm no different. I hold both aspects of source energy within me. So do you. We all have the capacity to see, feel, hear, and experience this truth. Now, in the next few chapters, I will account for many of those experiences from my own perspective and story. In reality, I have had more revelations, moments, biblical symbology, synchronistic confirmations of these old, outdated scriptures to last a lifetime. Lifetimes. And could literally fill volumes upon volumes of written documentation of these connections. I have chosen to speak up about a few of the more key and selective events in my life, defining moments through the journey of enlightenment. No one will ever experience these accounts the way I have. But everyone is capable of having their own soulful transformation. In sharing my story, I don't mean to disrespect or offend anyone. I don't. I'm merely speaking my truth. Apparently it's about damn time. Peanut gallery up there. No matter how many biblical encounters I have endured, my story is no greater or smaller than yours. It is my soulful right to express my truth. And what you do with the messages, it's up to you. I believe the goal of these experiences is to understand we are all contained within source energy. Now, I'm incredibly connected to these two lives, yet I still do not consider myself any more important than any other soul on earth. Why would I? If anyone ever teaches you their unique importance to this world, via their connection to Yeshua or Mary Magdalene, you go ahead and run. If someone is claiming to have been singularly prophesied because of his or her own importance, as opposed to having lived out prophecies as an indicator of the times we live in, run. We do, in fact, we do live within great prophesied times of transition, where the collective whole is learning to achieve oneness and Christ consciousness. However, that is not accomplished through any one individual. It is achieved by tuning into the ancient prophecy and then divinity held within us all. Anyone claiming otherwise is only recreating the old story that's already been told. The old story involves one person saving all of humanity. How's that working for us? It is true, one person can have a significant impact on the state of this world. But imagine, can you imagine the impact created with the full capacity and hearts of many balanced, soulfully driven individuals? It is time for this reality to emerge. Don't you agree? In terms of my strange energetic visions of a spear and an anvil during my healing process, I've since witnessed many different energetic objects around people's auras. I used to be one of those folks who would run if someone insinuated they could see something protruding from my auric field. However, the more I've worked with energy healing, the more I'm able to confirm these strange anomalies. In fact, upon closer inspection, they're not all that strange at all once you understand what causes them or why they are there. These objects are a reflection of trauma. Trauma within the past that is visible to those with eyes to see. Once the trauma is brought to your awareness and dealt with, the anomaly is resolved, and your energy field returns to normal. Strange, but true. Be right back. Yes, I was having a little party in the background with my guides. It's not even my biggest chapter, but at least I'm starting, hey? Your move. Embrace your soul works. Embrace it. If the idea of past lives is new to you, I encourage you to open yourself up to the very real and intriguing perspective. For those who are beginning to delve into your own personal story, I applaud your bravery. I do. I applaud it and encourage you to continue uncovering the mysteries held within. For those who have grasped the sheer magnitude of who you are and why you came into this world, At this time, I encourage you to fully stand in your power with faith and conviction that brought you here. Endeavor to bring forward the wisdom and knowledge from your past, while releasing the pain that no longer serves you to your highest good. However, a word of caution. Listen to this one closely. Who you were in a past life is no longer significant or relevant. It's not. That's in the past. Who you are and strive to be in this life is where your true capacity to bring love and light into the world stems from. Stand in who you are now. Be all you can be now. Act and react with love and compassion now. Speak your truth. I know for a fact that I lived, breathed, and took part in many life-changing eras within our world. I have it on good authority that we are all striving to evolve on a soul level so that we can enlighten the world. I know without a doubt I can help others see and experience their true greatness through the process of spiritual healing and journeying. However, I will not do the actual inner or outer work on your behalf. I'm playing the role of Lauren Heistad, intuitive healer, teacher, and change maker, with a strong connection to Mother Earth and the evolution of mankind. What's your role? What is your truth you wish to speak? I encourage you. I encourage you to follow your heart to find the voice within. When you hold yourself back out of fear of rejection, you are rejecting yourself. I can speak to that. Allow yourself to be who you are. Other people's rejection towards your truth is their own stuff to deal with. However, holding yourself back or keeping yourself small because of your fears of others' reactions is definitely your stuff to deal with and move through. Took me a few volumes to meet you here today. Okay. Start by journaling your inner reflections. Next, consider confiding in someone you trust and allow yourself to speak your own unique inner truth. Then expand out to those in your life who need to know the depths of your soul so that you may more freely live in unison together. Now is not the time to continue living your double life by keeping your spiritual self separate and apart from your physical world and human interactions. Now is the time to remove the duality and move into the unity that is you. Understand archetypes. We've all played them. We have. The innocent, the hero, the victim, the caregiver, the explorer, the rebel, Nailed that one. The lover, the creator, the jester, the sage, the magician, the ruler. Understand that each role has purpose and each role takes courage to fulfill. But find the balance point where the roles blur and no one person is responsible for any one position or task. Begin to take full responsibility for all of your own development. Honor downtime. Have you ever stopped to think about why sickness happens and appreciate the moments when it does? More often than not, it is a true sign of redirection and some much needed downtime before the tides turn. If you think of it in that way, sickness does not reflect your weakness. Not at all. It is a reflection of your inner strength and focus. Truth. Remember to give thanks for all the downtime that has ever crossed your path. Through these downtimes, your strength grows stronger, your spirit brighter, and your faith more focused on the divine within. And lastly, scan for blocked and inflicted energies and let it go. Take the time to tune into your energy field and see the events of the past that are still present. The objects or symbolism found depict emotional blockages from past traumas. I'm sure you've realized by now I tend to blend words together. It's that I'm reading ahead and then the words just come out as one. The objects or symbolism found to depict emotional blockages from past traumas that have yet to be shifted. Use your intuition to deal with these obstructions and fully allow yourself to let go of the past. Even though our personality might not always remember accounts from this life and others, trust me, your soul does. Your soul does. It is within your soul that you hold the combined vibrational blueprint and experiences from all of your lifetimes. All of them. Even if you do not know or understand the magnitude of what you are releasing, take the time and make the effort to let it go. Every time, this is important, every time an individual releases some of their own suppressed energy, collectively, the whole becomes lighter. That's a fact. Homecoming. Thank you for meeting me.